XRP investors, we finally have the date many people have been waiting for. We're talking about $114 trillion. Yes, $114 trillion. And according to recent reports and industry discussions, a process could begin by the end of this month that may push blockchain adoption to an entirely new level. If that number sounds unbelievable, you're not alone. I had the same reaction when I first saw it. But after looking at the announcements, the institutions involved, and the broader financial landscape, it became clear that something very interesting is happening behind the scenes. And perhaps the most interesting part? The XRP Ledger keeps showing up in this conversation. So the question is, what exactly is this $114 trillion, and what does XRP have to do with it? Let's take a closer look. First, let's start with Ripple CTO David Schwartz. According to Schwartz, the utility of the XRP Ledger is expanding far beyond payments. The focus is no longer just cross-border transactions. We're now hearing discussions about tokenized stocks, funds, repos, and even loans being supported on-chain. At first glance, this might sound like a normal technology update, but when you connect it with everything else happening in the financial industry, the picture becomes much more interesting.
Because at the same time, tokenization is becoming one of the biggest topics in finance. And Ripple isn't the only company moving in this direction. Major institutions and blockchain networks are all positioning themselves for what many believe could be the next phase of financial infrastructure. But then another name enters the conversation: DTCC. For those unfamiliar, DTCC is one of the most important pieces of financial market infrastructure in the world, and it oversees approximately $114 trillion in assets under custody. That's where this entire discussion begins, because when an institution of that size starts exploring tokenization and blockchain-based systems, people pay attention. And that's exactly what's happening. Recent industry developments have placed DTCC's tokenization efforts directly in the spotlight, which is why investors, institutions, and blockchain companies are all watching very closely. But here's where things get even more interesting. Many people assume there will be one blockchain winner. However, the information coming out of the industry suggests something very different. The future may be multi-chain.
In other words, multiple blockchain networks could work together rather than one network dominating everything. And that's why names like Stellar continue appearing in these discussions. The XRP Ledger appears as well. And so do several other enterprise-focused blockchain networks. But there is another development happening behind the scenes that deserves attention: wallets. At first, that may not sound exciting, but major financial institutions are increasingly talking about wallet strategies. And that matters. Because if tokenized assets become more common, investors will need wallets. Institutions will need wallets. Businesses will need infrastructure capable of holding, transferring, and managing tokenized assets. That's why many experts believe wallet adoption could become one of the most important building blocks of the next phase of blockchain growth. And when large institutions start preparing infrastructure before mass adoption arrives, it's usually worth paying attention. Because infrastructure often comes before widespread adoption. Now, let's connect everything together. Ripple is expanding the XRP Ledger for tokenized assets. DTCC continues exploring tokenization initiatives. Major financial institutions are working on wallet strategies. Industry participation continues to grow, and discussions around blockchain-based financial infrastructure are becoming more serious than ever. This doesn't mean XRP is going to skyrocket tomorrow. The data doesn't support that conclusion. But it does show something important. The financial industry is gradually moving toward blockchain-based infrastructure, and if tokenization reaches the scale many institutions expect, the financial system of the next decade could look very different from today's system, which is exactly why so many large players are paying close attention right now.
So here's the question for you. If trillions of dollars eventually move into tokenized ecosystems, which networks stand to benefit the most? Will it be the XRP Ledger, Stellar, or something else entirely? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.